Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Line of Code. I am One Lion. Hello, DFlux. You indefinitely doodly were first. And Tyron is here, still loving Flexor. Yeah, I don't fully understand the concept of Redux. Um, so I don't know what benefit I could get using it, but it does sound like it's a very useful tool to have. Kind of like I also don't really know how to use Redis for caching and stuff. But, you know, one day I may look into it. It's not really that complex. Let me say this. Take your time saying whatever you want because today is Community Day, a day when I focus primarily on whatever it is that you want to talk about, provided it's within the realm of our stream and within the guidelines that I have previously set forth, which is let's just, try to avoid topics that are potentially controversial unless they are like developer opinion, programmer opinions to do with software, not to do with like economics and politics and cultural differences, etc. So anyway, so Tyron is typing some stuff out that I'm going to read as soon as we get to our desktop because I am going to start opening some apps. I'm actually going to get into the stream room so that we can invite DFlux in. Looks like he is ready to go. Let me just get everything set up. Start virtual cam. Turn on my camera. All right, and DFlux, you just let me know when you're ready to get pulled into the stream room. Tyron is saying it's a singleton state across the entire app. You can dispatch actions. These actions do two key things. They trigger reducers to change state. Yeah, and I guess it's mostly the terminology. Like when I think of reduction, I'm thinking of it, I think, from a scientific standpoint, like what you do with theories and stuff, where you reduce, you have like a reductionist approach. But I don't think that's the same. And then, gosh, I don't think I'm going to be able to multi-stream lurk. Oh, it's working. Okay. So yeah, I guess the terms are things that I'm not fully familiar with. That would be nice if I knew. And or trigger effects to load data or do other async stuff. So essentially what I implement using my UI state class interface, not implement. I create an IUI state interface and then I implement it depending on whether I'm in test and I'm just testing it. So I inject a fake UI state or a controlled UI state that holds stuff that I need it to. But yeah, probably, except you can't view state easily. And replace state, that's another one. Replace state. That'd be really cool to have. Cool. And DFlux says he is ready. All right, I'm pulling you in. You can mute the stream. And hopefully my Discord sound is okay. Here you go. Mic check, please.
1, 2.
You are checked.
1, 2.
A little quiet on my side, but I can turn you up just fine.
I can turn myself up, I think, too. Oh, yes,
well,
I
you don't
should.
have to.
Sorry. Turn me down. Turn me down. I've hit. There you go. Now turn my microphone on.
Okay.
Does that change it? Yeah.
Yep.
I had it. That was actually ironically. I have this button called -20 dB on my microphone.
Oh, cool.
It's like a, but it's a really bad mute because you can still hear me, just really quietly.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like, why couldn't they make the button -100 or -2000?
That would help. Well, I mean, just have a mute button and that button, because like I could benefit from that.
Yeah, like I have, I think somewhere on my stream deck. I mean, look, I have like the Discord mute button somewhere. I don't actually have it anymore. I don't think. No, I don't. I should re-add that. So I have like a quasi mute button, but you know. It just seems to like what like I guess
not that one.
An audiophile person, right? He would go in and like work it out to where the -20 actually muted it. I think that's the point. I'm supposed to like tune my stuff. I don't know. Well, what's the purpose of it? What's the point of having a -20?
Like for me, it would be just if I were to be funny or something and I wanted to shout, then I would push that button and then shout, and then push the button again and then talk normally.
So I should have it on -20, and I should turn everything up. Is what I should be doing.
I don't know. I'm not an expert at this.
I don't know. Yes, I don't know. Yeah. But I always assumed the -20 button was
You're
was
the
in order
sound
to
guy.
basically. Yeah, apparently. I'm supposed to be, but yeah, just that one feature I don't know about, but or know exactly what the use case is for it. But there you go.
I'm trying to open the bot remake project. Where did it go?
But no, it's like it's like one of my like small habits that I have is that when people do things that annoy me, I get fidgety. And I learned something on my desk. If I slap it hard enough, somewhere in my computer or my hub or USB hub somewhere, there's one that's like sitting not quite loose enough. Like, sorry, not quite tight enough. So it's a little loose. And so every time I slap my desk in anger, it disconnects for half a second, which makes me laugh every single time. I don't know what it is, but it disconnects and then reconnects. I have the dun sound every time I get too angry, and then I start fiddling with my microphone or my headphones or something when I see bad code.
Mm.
Oh my! It's been a fun week.
Yeah,
Been a somewhat productive week. But there you go.
It's been a super duper productive week for me. I've done nothing but work on another team's code base and pretty much reverse engineer it. I don't know what the point of this is when their code is in C#, our code is in C#. If they just give me the NuGet package to their library, then I won't have to go through this Signal R service mess that they made, and oh, it'd be so much easier to access the code directly.
What do they have? Some sort of like weird Signal R thing where you say what model you want and they return it or something?
Kind of. So picture this. 1973. You're on the front line. No.
I was there with you, man. I was ready. Let's get them. What was it? Vietnam, that would be?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about history, nor did I mean to bring up anything that was going to bring up history. But the application is one that scans your computer and looks for connected devices. The application that I work on is one that scans your computer and looks for internal devices, so video cards and memory modules and all of that stuff. So that's our app. Their app is peripheral devices, monitors, docks, all of that stuff.
Gotcha.
The client wants us to integrate their external device application into ours, so that we in our app display connected devices as well as the system internals. So in order for their application to run, they set it up where their backend is a Signal R service that runs on the computer. It's a Signal R hub, and it does the initialize for any other application that wants to request connected devices from it. But the way that it does it is you send a Signal R message to the hub after connecting to it, and then it eventually gets around to broadcasting the response for that Signal R method that you asked. So the weird thing is, the way that they did it is instead of having a connection ID where it knows how to broadcast or how to send a message back to just that specific connection ID, they set it up by some properties that you pass into the request. Who's the requester and who's the recipient. And so the requester can be the main system overview page, and the recipient can be the device specific page for a given device so that you can get the device details. But it's the same method name. Give me the page data. And so depending on who the requester is or who the recipient is, I still can't tell which one it is, that's how you're going to get back some data. On top of that, it's going to broadcast to everyone and say, if you are listening for a message back to this recipient, then process the message. There is no discriminator that says this app specifically is asking for it. So if I'm running their app and my app, and I do something in their app, my app gets updated. And vice versa.
You're running on the same, like, sort of, the hub is a global, Got it running
Exactly.
throughout the
Yep.
lifetime of the app.
And so the
Mhm.
thing that baffles me is you could have done this using Kestrel and have it be an API request response thing or gRPC or something that suits more request response, which SignalR does now, but they're running on .NET 5. And
Well,
anyway,
I will say think bigger. So this actually is really similar to some of what I did with my
I got a
current
bad feeling
folks.
about this.
When I joined in, they had a
parents
WinForms
end.
application that a WinForms application that was using a socket connection between the client and the server, and then the server itself has its own socket connection back to itself with some sort of like message queuing system for like putting things into like a particular order or something. So I then migrated them over and we started to move into Blazor, and they're like, can we just replace this with Signal? I'm like, hells no, we're not doing that. We're just going to do regular HTTP requests, and it's going to return the data, and we're going to go like that. And then we literally just spent a year trying to convince them to get rid of the whole back-end messaging service where it messages itself and actually like put that into something that's a little bit more organized. And we're still, I guess, a little bit in that process for that certain parts of the application. But no, I would, that whole paradigm of trying to convince everything is a message is an interesting style, but
That's how I worded it.
Yeah.
It's like it's an interesting approach. It kind of makes sense for their use case because their device discovery takes about 5 minutes to do the whole thing. So as a device is discovered, we will produce a message. Yeah, it's really crazy. I don't know what all it does and why it takes that long. It could be a hardware specific thing, but
well, I'm assuming most of what they're detecting when we think of peripheral devices, we think USB, right?
USB,
like,
DVI, VGA, PS2,
well,
all of the ports.
Right.
Anything connected to a computer that is external to.
Well, I guess I don't really know enough, but as far as I'd say, like you have a USB standard, and then like HDMI and DVI and Ethernet actually use the same stack. So there's really two technology based, like the other ones you mentioned at least.
Yeah,
I know there's like hubs
port,
plugged into hubs, plugged
HDMI,
into right,
Lightning.
But when you say 5 minutes, it's like from the time that I plug my USB thumb drive in, it takes them.
Oh no. It takes the app 5 minutes to run the initial scan of the entire system.
Well,
and so if we're gonna launch the back end ourselves, if it's not already running, we launch it ourselves. We have to wait for this initialized process to finish before we can actually get the information I'm looking for.
That definitely sounds like they are doing something really funky. Well, that was part of the puzzle. Okay, so the messaging service that we had, like our internal thing, I did a demo where I had like a boolean that I switched on and off, and I would go from like simply requesting the data from the source versus requesting the data through this messaging thing they had put together, and it was like a 10 times reduction in time just for like all these like messages back and forth. And so at the time I was like trying to cope and like trying to be nice and like, yeah, we could probably keep it and work this and work that. But in the bigger picture, what I should have done in hindsight is said, no, this is terrible way of thinking about applications. And we want to avoid having our own little SMS app inside of our app. We should just focus on this page that loads and calls the data. This then is stored in a SQL database or wherever, or some container of information.
Yeah, and I think they are using a SQLite DB in the back end.
Yeah, that's so predictable.
And it has to be in a very specific location.
Yeah, SQLite is like that, right?
Well, I mean, like, it doesn't make sense for the way all of these things are put together, but yeah. Let me just say hi to Acid Champ real quick. Hello, Acid Champ. Thank you for being here. Today is Community Day, and as you can see, we have DFlux here in the voice channel. He said, or they say, hello, I'm here chilling, doing my coding boot camp while listening. That's cool. If that's cool. Absolutely. Do what you want. Do what you do. Enjoy your time. And thanks for being here. Okay, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, welcome in. But no, I guess I was gonna say SQLite. We're using, like, I was thinking of like, how would I do that? And I wanted to like maintain state in between, like I would like use the temporary directory and then do like / my app / something.sql or .db is how I'd imagine. And that's sort of because if you as soon as you change the path, it's a brand new database, instance or whatever they call it.
Right.
So it makes sense to have it in a particular place. I don't think you can do it any other way. But you can ship the local DB or the with an application. I always thought with like WPF or Maui or whatever, the desktop style application. So, but SQLite works just as well, I assume. But it's not particularly quick. So that might be part of their 5-minute puzzle.
Yeah, I honestly, well, I can check real quick, but I honestly don't know what the deal is. Like, you would assume that they would try to use something like a vector database instead. That's much faster.
Database? I don't even know what that is.
So, like, think of the way that NoSQL DBs store documents.
Yes.
A vector database is a way of indexing all of those documents and then having a trail of pointer to a document. And so it's super fast to look something.
Is it a type of database, or is it like that's a thing called? So
I think it's a type of database.
Well, they say use cases, and then they link to Postgres and Cosmos DB. Or when they say vector databases in Azure.
Type of database. Database is what I said.
Yeah.
And so when they are pretty much storing all of this device information, it's pretty much just a JSON document that they could...
That makes a lot of sense.
And then whenever we request a specific device's information.
But I mean, at the same time, though, you know, in hindsight for myself, SQLite is a really good, useful go-to, especially with like EF and SQLite. You just boom, you're done within like 5 minutes, and then you have a working database, and you can start shoving data in there, and it stays alive between sessions. Like from a, I guess that's like we're picking now technologies, but they're both applicable.
Really right, it's whatever their data store is.
Yeah.
Program data. That's what I'm looking for. My company's name. Their applications thing. And ooh, no, their DB looks like a file DB. Like file system.
right. I mean SQLite is like just a file.
No, I mean like
they actually have
like
DLLs. Like a folder structure and
What? Alright, hold on.
There are different SQLite drivers, so maybe they're not using Entity Framework, perhaps?
Well, like I said, I haven't seen the actual core logic. Their
you
main class library. I only have access to their SignalR repo, essentially. And their current Angular front end. Because what was supposed to happen from the get-go is they already have Angular components that do all of the communication needed. They have a thing called an initialize component that sends the message to the backend that says, do the initialize process. And only do it once. If you're already initialized,
can I ask a question on that?
Of course.
So are you saying they have a component on Angular that when the Angular page loads, it then sends a signal over SignalR to do the initialize?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they have a component that shows the entire system overview of all of the discovered devices. And then individual device pages.
Just from the get-go, wouldn't it just make a ton more sense just to do that after login? And just have that there?
I am. Yeah, so I'm reverse engineering all of this stuff, all of the components they already have, because one, they use inline styles for their components, so they're really hard to restyle to match our app. And two, there's no way to put information into that component to say...
I was just saying, like, you said that they have a page that, like, does the initialization. That seems like, just from the get-go, that was the first thing you said. I was like, that seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one that, like, you start the app, you get the splash screen, and it has a loading bar that says initializing, and then it has a progress bar.
I mean, I guess I'm just sort of speaking out of turn from a third-party perspective, but it sounds like when you would install the application would be when you, like, did, like, your first, like, I guess, scan, and then you would store that somewhere and then simply call that and then like do an update thing in the background. Rather than, I guess my thing is, why would you trigger that on a UI? Surely you load the UI independently from...
Right, yeah. Like, so that is something they just changed in their most recent release, where as soon as you start the backend, it does the initialize process.
Yeah.
But the initialize UI is the one that has the progress bar of how far it's gotten.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But yeah, it's still a very interesting approach. Hello, Big Gamey. Big Gamey, how is your PC doing? Were you able to get it up and running? I'm feeling all of your pains.
You're gaming on a new PC?
Well, so he's been working on replacing his processor because his processor was slowing down whenever his stream viewers would play certain animated interactions on his stream, and he's got a good video card, and he didn't want to get a brand new computer because he's planning on doing that in like 10 to 12 months from now. And then he got a new CPU. I don't know why. This is what he said. I'm just regurgitating it. So he decided to try to get a new CPU. He got the CPU. It didn't fit his motherboard. So he returned it, got another CPU that's supposed to fit his motherboard. Something happened between then and now that I don't know what it was, but his CPU or his entire computer got sick. So I think he got a used computer or something else. He can tell us all about it, but yeah. So he hasn't been able to stream either. Just saying.
Well, I've had a new-ish build that's gone horribly wrong as well. I've got a story on that end.
Tell us.
But well, I will. But perhaps just table it because you were just saying I was rather interested just then.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, what was it now? It was
So yeah, the initialize, I think, was the last thing that we talked about.
Right. So that's what has like the loading bar before the app like UI loads up. And then you said about the inline styling, which is like, oh yeah, that's something that Angular, like I've seen this a lot in Angular. I don't know if this is like an Angular thing. I was doing Solid.js just for the point of learning. I just picked the thing out of the hat and said, let's learn that. So I did that, and they practically force you by putting off convention to not do inline styling.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
which
nice.
I thought was wicked nice. Basically, you actually have to like the class, and when I was doing, I was like, Blazor should get this. This should be a Blazor thing, but a little bit like you have like a grimoire where you have to do like thing, right? If you're familiar with the grimoire thing that I think Findle maybe spoke about that.
Maybe. So I mean, is it just a style of writing HTML where you do element and then dot for classes,
the grimoire in C# is basically you take all your magic strings everywhere in your whole application and you put it into one file. So all your magic is in one file. And so instead of doing like on screen right now on line, what is it, 24, you have a thing called show prompt, which is essentially a magic string there. So you would have like grimoire dot, wherever we're at, example dot show prompt. Right, and so break it down into like, so she would group things together and organize it. So anyway, what the Solid.js thing did was it forces you to do the same thing in C#, where instead of just typing the magical string of like what it is in the CSS file, right now in Blazor you just like literally do class equals and then you type a bunch of essentially a magic string, and you just pray that matches up with whatever the spelling is in the CSS file. But what they actually do is it reads the CSS file and it's like like the dots. So you go like this, and it specifically selects it from the CSS file, so you know it's there. Which is a lot more sort of what's the word, strongly typed or connected directly to the file, as opposed to just hoping that the CSS names you're putting into the class equals thing it matches somewhere along the way.
That's kind of cool. I do like that because I'm a fan of strongly typed. I don't know how I feel about using constants for all of your strings everywhere. It seems like a bit much in the overhead department.
I like it because I like it when I say I like it. There's a lot of areas that it not only is it say, well, I was gonna say this is about Signal R2, and so there's like types, like we were doing Signal R messaging, and there's like types of messages, and it'd be really good to unify that and put that in one place. And then there'll be like randomly at work, the code would just have like, and here's the thing in +2. And I'm like, why are we adding 2? Well, 2 is the value of blah 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 blah. Like, so why don't you type out what that is, group it like this machine, this category, put it in the grimoire and make it equal to 2, and then add that. So then it reads XYZ. It actually makes sense when you read it in the code that what's actually happening is this thing is adding some variable from some machine that we're hard coding because there's no way to call it. Or at least that's the best that we've got right now.
Right.
So I like that part of it, and the grouping is where it really makes sense, because you can group things into like various things. But yes, I see
That would be awesome. You kind of just gave me an idea of how to C#ify this type of approach. Instead of having it to where you have to manage this grimoire yourself, source generator, obviously. You create a class in your CSS file, and then the source generator takes that class and puts it into that grimoire dot whatever component you're in dot CSS classes or IDs or whatever dot that class name.
I'm not familiar with source generators, but that sounds like feel free to demo that, because I'm gonna watch that stream.
We started a source generator in the Finan Man just to show a quick example of source generator.
Maybe I might use that if that's interesting. Dindle says
they're not easy to set up.
Oh, are they not?
It was Seto, most likely then, because Thindle is saying he doesn't know.
Maybe it wasn't. I forget who it was, and maybe it wasn't Thindle, and I forget. But me and Seto were discussing it, and then someone came in the stream and says, "I know exactly what you guys are talking about. You guys are talking about a magic book. That's called a grimoire." And we all looked up the definition of grimoire. Yeah, that was Thindle. And so Thindle then
why were you acting like you didn't know what it was, Thindle?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I spoke a little quick there. I said I thought it was Thindle, and so we were discussing it, and then Thindle swooped in and gave it a name, and now it's official in all my apps. Even at work, we have grimoire everywhere now, and Seta loves it, and I love it, and Thindle loves it.
Speaking of,
and thank you, Thindle, for bringing that up.
So here's an example of a source generator that if you put a Thindle icon attribute on, I think the Thindle icon attribute goes on an enum member.
So okay, I'm maximizing your code now. Let's see what we got. Oh, I always forget. Do you always stream on Discord?
Yeah,
because that's quicker.
Yep.
I should maximize that. Although I will say, let me see. Twitch is just so much more higher quality.
Oh yeah, right. I don't think I did Nitro.
Yeah, it's a waste. Not a waste of money, but they have so many rules about it. But so you have your I guess. So how would I read it? I guess I'm looking there. How would I read a CSS file?
So, well, it doesn't. I'll show you that in a second. But let's just talk through this one real quick. You create some way for you to identify the thing you want to generate more source code on it. I typically use attributes, but it could be anything. It could be naming convention. It could be the folder that you're in, or the namespace.
Put like string there, and that would be like adding additional stuff to a string.
Exactly. So anything that you want, here's an attribute. If I put that attribute on wherever I'm expecting it to be used, so let's say that it's supposed to be on an enum, and I did Thindle icon, then as soon as I save this, the Roslyn compiler will do its automatic compilation step, and then it'll run the initialize. And then what this gets is the entire syntax tree that the Roslyn compiler is about to get. You interrupt that, inject your own strings, add code, add classes, new files, whatever. Then that goes to the Roslyn compiler. It compiles it, and you get new classes generated in your source generator. I wish I had a more concrete example, but I can't do this off the top of my head.
Right, I was going to say that, but that's good that only works with C# code.
Well, so you'll get everything in the syntax tree. So that could, for example, here's a better example. Where is my
I know the Blazor Razor Class
localizations?
library thing. Like it'll generate like a CSS file, so it must be in there somewhere because it actually like takes your CSS files and moves it around.
So here is an example of a file that is not a C# file. When you add
key value pair.
this is a regex. It's a XML file essentially. When you add the public or internal, then that invokes a source generator that says create a C# class that turns that XML file into this class that has a whole bunch of properties that gives you back the localized text depending on what language you're currently using.
Gotcha.
So this is source generation.
Oh man,
right here.
I guess will it break it? You're missing an opportunity to do name of there just to match that nicely up.
Oh, that's the thing. This is source generated. So this is whoever wrote this source generator code. This code here is
that's automatically made by the generator. That's what we're looking at. Gotcha.
So if I created this, then yeah, maybe I would use name of instead of about of this.
But because it's source generated, we're very, very confident.
Yeah, even then, like it could just be the property name itself, because this is matching the property name. So member info, I think is what it's called. A member info attribute. Then you get this member.
Yeah, that's something I got to learn a little bit more about, because that does seem like pretty damn useful. But yeah, I wonder if you could read CSS file with that, and then you could then you have to go look and see if the Razor syntax will even allow you to put in C# objects in the. You'd have to do like an @ and some weird things.
Thank you. Here's a good example. Let me read BitGamey's message from 20 hours ago. He told us about his computer. Bought a CPU and motherboard. They didn't work. The repair shop said to return both, so I did. Bought a used PC with the same motherboard and CPU in as I returned. Now I'm having issues with the PC, seeing my solid state drive in the BIOS. That sucks. That really sucks. Raindance asked about working with mass transit. I asked, are you talking about like real world transportation? Because I know someone that worked in DOT.
Mass transit is something that TBD would often work with in his code.
Oh,
I forget exactly.
Does it have to do with caching and stuff or signal?
With Kafka, if I remember correctly, but I
with what? Say that again. It cut out. Kafka. Okay.
I want to hazard a guess. Math.
So my answer is no. I have not. You read most of them.
Shout out TBD Gamer.
Absolutely. Yes. It's difficult when my best bot isn't here because I forget these things. Regular shout out. You could do exclamation point, type out the whole shout out word. But we will do a shout out.
It is. It's a distributed system, distributed RabbitMQ event-driven application, which might actually help your buddies over there that are trying to like reinvent event-driven applications. Ironically.
Interesting. No idea what we're really seeing, but he's being really quiet on his stream.
TBD?
Yeah. On this clip. It's just really quiet. And of course you wouldn't be able to hear the actual clip.
Challenge.
Oh, there he goes.
Hear the actual challenge.
Okay, so here it is. If you want to read out Thendall's message while I look at this, or Tyrant's first, actually.
It certainly looks pretty damn cool.
Tyrant's thing was, I've seen this used for Blazor MVVM project. You can use attributes to generate the notify property change stuff. Yeah, and so that's one thing that I was about to use is the iObservable pattern. Which if you use the MVVM toolkit, then you essentially just put an attribute observable on a field and then it exposes it. It writes the source to expose it as an observable property changed type of thing. But it doesn't really follow the observable pattern. It follows the iNotify property change, iNotify property changing pattern, which is not really observable. But yeah.
Now, does that source generator, does that break the hot reload stuff, or does that work just fine with hot reload?
It works just fine with hot reload. Because it's just another class. Or, I mean, you can generate any type of file. It doesn't have to be a C# class. It could be a text file. It could be CSS, whatever.
Do you guys use Docker, Gilgamesh? 43499.
Guess what TBD Gamer does? I just recently installed Docker for Windows with an Ubuntu image on it, but that was for an LLM that I was playing around with, an LLM application. Didn't get too far into it though.
Yeah, there's this. I don't quite know. Like, this is one of the things that they wanted to do as well. They wanted us to use Kubernetes. They're like, can you spin up a Kubernetes thing? I'm like, we could, but why? Because I don't need to. I can publish directly into a containerized thing in Azure out of the box. Like, if I had like a bunch of like really complex, like I need, there's some Python code here. There's some like different .NET packages, like .NET framework stuff I need installed, and I need to have this app thing running somewhere in the background. And in order for my app to work, then yeah, Dockerize, because you can just create like an image that has everything in it, and then that becomes like your base plate for what everything that you're doing sits on top of. But if you're just running a .NET API or a .NET and you don't have any sort of custom integration that you need, I honestly am yet to see the benefit of Dockerizing. It just, all that basically means is you're going to have to go to a cloud resource and now reserve, network and memory and hard drive space. When the alternative is you don't have to reserve any of them. You just pay exactly what you use, which is a lot cheaper. So yeah, and that's what Napalm Code points out. And the benefit is, the reason why people might want to do it is because those Kubernetes clusters can run on AWS or Azure or whatever. Whereas what I'm talking about here is you go specifically to Azure or you go specifically to AWS. You say, what is your premier PaaS solution, and how can I make my code work with that? As opposed to what you're doing, which is like, I'm going to create a universal package that can theoretically run in any cloud I want. But having said that, like, again, it might be different in my company to other people's companies, but like, we're not hopping over cloud providers on a weekly basis. Like, the accounting department and all that stuff, they're like integrated specifically into our cloud provider, and in order for us to move is a massive amount of work. So just because you can switch from AWS to Azure in a weekend that doesn't help. I mean, that doesn't. And you can do .NET in AWS out of box too. They have the exact same code first solutions. You don't have to Dockerize. So Dockerize makes a lot of sense, or made a lot of sense, and still does. Like in like the 2015s, 2016s, 2017s, when like cloud was still relatively new to the world. Still, it's been around for like a while, been around for like 5-6 years, but there's still a ton of companies that have like a Windows server in the corner of the room that hosts something on IIS, or hosts something on some like like whatever you can think of, manufacturing or AutoCAD or ArcGIS or whatever
stuff.
Right, whatever it is, exactly. And so in order for like AutoCAD to get like a cloud service, there we go, we don't know how to convert all this old code, all this old stuff into something that can run on the cloud. In walks in Docker and says, what you're going to do, you're going to create your base image and then just like add patches to that. And now you can run whatever your 20-year long-standing AutoCAD, again, ArcGIS, whatever, you can just run it in the cloud. Now you have a cloud-first service, you can sell that to your customers. And they go, wonderful, let's use that. But for brand new development, which doesn't have any of those constraints, again, it just doesn't make sense to me to reserve infrastructure at a massive cost comparatively. Than just publishing through a GitHub action or something, than just running on the cloud natively. Yeah, one option is you can have Docker Compose and specify the image version. Yeah.
So I missed TBD Gamer coming in. He's like, I see my name. I join and see my name and stream up. And here, DFlux. Yes, we were
I think I
talking
said
and talking
TBD
good
three
about you.
times and you got summoned. Basically, I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Talking the best things about you. Definitely need to check out TBD's streams. He streamed for a lot longer this morning since he had the day off, and it was a great stream. Good times over there. Need a shout out for Vic Amy, who is currently not able to stream because PC issues. I feel really bad, but still follow him if you aren't already. There was a bunch of stuff up here. Tyron really loves accents. He told you to say distributed again, and then for me to say distributed.
I don't know. I got a real American twang to me, so I don't know. Maybe I'm saying it the incorrect way.
Incorrect.
But yeah, then TBD pointed out
Discorrect.
there are now whole companies like Snowflake and Confluent, right? That you actually go to, and you like they have an abstraction between you and the cloud provider. And so now you're not even going to the cloud provider. Now you're going to a third party, and the third party is then pooling resources and then passing some of that saving to you, which is like you could just skip the middleman and just publish to the cloud and be done. Yeah, you don't need to reserve anything. The cloud wants you. The cloud, .NET as a and Azure being a Microsoft product, they want you to run efficiently in their cloud. They don't get kicks out of like making people pay for hundreds of gigabytes of storage and thousands of gigabytes or hundreds of gigabytes of RAM and then never use it. That honestly, they don't want that. They want their customers using the product that they sell. So, and you can interrupt me one line. You don't have to type.
Oh, it's hard for me to interrupt people in general.
Oh, well.
It's just me.
not
Segal was asking, how's the job market in my region? So over here in Colorado, I'm assuming it's good. I haven't looked for a job in a long time. When I moved jobs from when I got here in 2017, I changed jobs in 2021, I think, or 22. But that was because I was contacted by a recruiter on LinkedIn, not because I was looking. And then I got 2 or 3 interviews and went with Sagetti, which any views and opinions expressed on this channel are my own and not necessarily the views and opinions of Sagetti. And then after that, I've kept in contact with the prime contractor for the place that I used to work at, which is not the same employer that I actually worked at when I was there. But they've been interested, so just keeping up communications with them. That said, it seems like there are plenty of .NET jobs in this area, at least for solo individuals.
And I'll say, at least from my perspective, the job market, I'm looking at also getting a new job potentially, and the job market is very warm, from what I'm seeing. But I'm looking in the remote category for the United States of America, which is a rather large region, right? So I'm not sure we went by like region, because region by region, I don't, maybe I have it wrong as always, but I don't think necessarily like when employers say must be physically there, they're honestly like almost shooting themselves in the foot, because they're potentially there are hundreds of other developers in the same time zone even, or thousands even, that are applying, that could apply for that job if they didn't have that restriction. And so they're now bagging from a smaller pool, which means they're far more likely to come across a unqualified applicant.
And what TBD Gamer said, like, as I mentioned, the people that I used to work with are still expressing interest in me helping them out some more. And I was like, one of the conditions is that I don't need to go into the office, because I'm 100% remote. I am getting a million things done, and yeah.
Oh man, I would love, I could just imagine if I were able to get myself a job where the previous developer was as skilled as you, and so like you're going back and the code's okay, versus going to like potentially.
Well, do you remember what that code base looks like?
How
many apps there were?
No, there were a lot of
It
apps.
was
I give you
so
that, but
messy.
you did well, you went to a very high standard. I feel like,
Well,
and
thank
you
you.
did a very good job. Which again, the only real comparison I've got, I've worked at like 2 or 3 software development jobs, and each of them are massively trash compared to everything that I see on your stream and the stuff that you even years ago were doing. In comparison, and that's if my current employer is currently listening, I would like to fix that, but it's a lot of work.
Let me see if I can pull up one of the apps. So this was the RMA Water one, the one with the big map and all that stuff with ArcGIS.
Well, yeah, this was probably the most complex one. I want to say, because the
Second
ArcGIS
most.
stuff was
The
second most, you think?
ArcGIS was super complex, but the DDMS one, the document management system, with uploading documents and indexing them and being able to search them using both SQL and the DT search syntax. That. Get.
But I want to say that, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn.
Of course you are. But do.
Of course I am.
Please do.
Oh no. Oh no. I was going to say,
Please do.
I want to say that when you did switch jobs, it was a considerable pay bump. So hopefully that previous employer was willing to facilitate, that.
So you definitely remember it correctly. I was getting paid peanuts when I was working for the contractor that was contracted by the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, because
Right.
that place
And
was
so this is a
pretty
different
cheap.
company we were just saying earlier.
And so yeah, this is someone that was a subcontractor as well at the time, but they have now become the prime contractor for this. I think I'm pretty sure they have. And so they are willing to pay GSA wages.
Nice.
Which is pretty comparable to what Sagetti.
Well,
and actually, Sagetti is being a little cheap too.
Well, to say, if you get really, really, really bored or you don't like what they're suggesting, I'm looking and I would love to inherit your code base.
So first comment that I noticed was what I was talking with on TBD Gamer stream earlier, which is I used way too many to-dos once I learned about the task list, and then I never cleared them even after I implemented them. And like, this is the prime example of that we had just talked about. It's hilarious.
Yeah, so you have a bunch of to-dos that still are to-do even though they're already done.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, this is such an easy way to manage the work that I need to do. I can just go to my task list, jump directly to the place in code that I need to do it. And, oh my goodness, never. There goes TBD Gamer. Bye.
I like that. Do we not like to-dos now? Do you still use to-dos? Or?
I do, but like the argument that was put forth, which I agree with, is these are essentially work items. So maybe they belong in your agile management product or whatever work management product.
So I had a very similar conversation, and me and my team, we thoroughly disagree with that approach. We think we put way too much stuff in our agile blah blah blah. So we'll create a feature branch. And that feature branch will have like 12 tickets or 20 tickets connected to it for all different reasons, and some of them are half done, some of them are actually completed, and some of them span different. And it's like a complete mess. And so it's like, well, if it's code related, put it in a to-do. If it's an issue, put it in the GitHub issues tab, right? If it's like an actual business goal that reflects on what the business is expecting us to achieve, that goes in the agile software. Because the agile software is there to communicate between the software development team and management of what's being achieved on a weekly basis.
Yeah, definitely.
And so,
I agree with that too.
What's that to do? That's one of the to-dos. Let's say you have a Git lab code for this purpose. If you put that into a agile thing, the manager's going to look at that and just like, I don't know what one line is doing on a daily basis. So it doesn't make sense to go there. I would much prefer this to be to-dos like you have like here, and then have the overarching business.
But the one issue with this, because like you can have work items that are internal and not for the client, but there's nothing accountable to this. Like, I've completely forgotten about this to do. And the app works just fine. They haven't complained about anything. And I'm pretty sure I have all of the lab codes needed for purposes. Yeah.
You got to remember the pace you were working at, though. You did like one full project a quarter.
It was insane.
It was
It broke
legitimately
my brain
insane.
so bad. I'm really hoping that if I do entertain their offer and they allow me to continue work on these projects, not saying that I'm already doing it or not, that they give me the time to, one, upgrade them to .NET 8, and two, refactor all of the code and write it the way that I would have had this been a true modernization effort and not a straight port kind of thing.
Well, without
can.
digging up too much, I think the way you were describing it, and again, you told me, hey, it's your business.
I'm really curious.
The way that they were describing it was sound like that they actually wanted a subcontractor themselves. Like you were going like, I will subcontract it and I will manage it from a 1099 basis. And then you
that
could
may or may not be a thing.
Yeah. Well,
as of right now.
That's what, right. That's what they're probably looking for, and then you could sub out. You being a
I wouldn't trust anyone else.
Well, I know you don't. That's where that goes. But that's what we spoke about.
Which is terrible of me, I know.
But you could theoretically, you being the architect, the lead, the person who put this all together, you could find a junior, lesser person or lesser developer that's newer to the industry and pay him a decent wage, or him or her a decent wage, and then say, we're going to make this a small business on the side. And then you could do a little bit like what I think Nerd Herder at the time we're talking about, where he has actually he has what people call passive income from lots of previous work and hours that they put in.
I hope that the person's initials were actually ME TBD Gamer, because me.
I did just get a box delivered, so I'm going to step away and grab the box from the front door.
Okay, I'll try to entertain everyone. I'll do my best. So catching up on chat, I bet you at least put comments in there. Some jerks don't even comment. He's kind of laughing at himself if you didn't get that. Actually, comment. An actual comment, not mine. Just found it recently. So to-dos, if you're using them, require discipline and constant review. So yeah, that's did I actually say that out loud? I think I was just thinking it out loud. But having a to-do, you're not really accountable to doing that in any specific time frame. So a to-do is just this needs to be done, hope somebody does it eventually, and so your code has a bunch of noise, and that was the term that was used earlier that I really liked because I agree with it. But it was about something else. But anyway, your code has a bunch of extra noise that doesn't need to be there. This comment here, for example, the current date is not in the range of cert date to decert date, then select, wait, this looks like an if statement. Yeah, so it's like, if I'm reading through this code and I see this big block of length, then I don't know necessarily what this thing is querying, which shouldn't be solved by writing a comment. Instead, it should be solved maybe by extracting this to a method that says get whatever the thing is this is actually getting, which is a self-explanatory comment or method. Self-commented method.
I am back. I'm back.
Welcome
and I'm
back.
ready to disagree with you again.
Okay.
Because I love
that's fine.
code comments.
No, go ahead.
That was one of the areas where I think that it's really nice about the code that I see right open here is that there are code comments. Having code comments should be it's great because you can read the code comment like you just did and look at the code, and then from a senior perspective come up with an actual working solution, as opposed you're always going to compare things to the alternative, which is to not have the code comment and then just be very confused about what that link statement does. That being the alternative.
Yeah, but I mean, in this case, it would make sense to have a method named whatever it is this link statement is getting for you.
Right. Right, it does, because you could deduce that from a like hindsight perspective, because you've got the code comment.
Right.
That adds a lot of context, and you could quickly deduce what actually should happen.
Oh, wait, this is the method that gets the thing. So
Well, there you go.
nice. So in the method that gets the thing. Napalm wanted to know. It was Napalm, right? Okay, here's an idea. For an extension. If you put a to do, it detects it kind of like Task List does, and then it creates a GitHub issue out of it. Well, first
Yep.
of all, you'd have to be using GitHub as your project management system thing. So configuring it, but I know what you mean. It would open an issue in your project management thing. Yeah, fill in your provider.
Well,
But
but
to
that filling your
DFlux
provider is
point,
a big thing.
yeah,
And
it's pretty hard, I would think.
not only is it hot, like for right now, what we're using, ServiceNow. ServiceNow has absolutely zero
Service
connection,
now.
zero integration with GitHub whatsoever. There is nothing there that, at least that I'm aware of. Maybe there's a newer version, but the one where I work, there's zero integration. So these things are completely
Ooh.
disconnected, and it also means that if I wanted a developer to start doing ServiceNow stuff, I have to get them to stop software development. It's not stop building code in their IDE, close their IDE, open a browser, and start doing a bunch of clicks.
Right.
As opposed to, if it's something that actually is part of the development process, it's probably already built into your IDE. There's definitely to do stuff in VS Code. There's definitely to do stuff in Visual Studio. And if you ask any vegans in the room, they'll tell you that was it Rider or JetBrains also has a to do thing as well. So it's about like filling your product. It's about like working with what your provider has. TBD just wanted to make a mental note. I'll read this out loud just so mental note. DFlux and I are never working together. I mean, 8 billion people on the planet, but I'm never going to work with TBD. All right.
Don't worry, TBD. You and I could work together. We'll just leave DFlux to work on his
Yeah, there
projects.
you go. I'll sit in the corner and I'll watch the streams, and then be like, if only I were, and they'd be like, no, we don't want you.
Oh man. Marcus Voice Coder. First of all, fun stream earlier. I was only watching, not really listening, but glad to see you streaming. That was cool. That was fun. Second, there was another comment that I missed that I wanted to read out loud. What it was. Was it Thindle stuff?
You can reread the TBD comment if you want.
It was to do with the thing that you said, so like the different providers, and it was to continue on the thought that Napalm had. So to DFlux's point, the thing that you typically use your like ADO or GitHub issues for is to communicate to the client that you're doing work. Essentially, here's what I did.
No, that's that whole tooling. Like, I guess that's the thing. Our Agile platform does not integrate into anything that GitHub has. Our software developers would much prefer if whatever requirements that are for documentation were actually part of the IDE. If they were actually part of the IDE in the form of an extension or something, it'd be so much smoother than what we currently do, which is we somewhat use PRs, we somewhat use GitHub Actions, and then we somewhat do a bunch of copy and pasting in ServiceNow or maybe in the future Jira. And that whole process is like that step of having to stop work, stop production, stop being a productive individual to go and recant what it is you've just done in some other software, but you literally are doing it anyway to basically double work, is so inefficient.
Right. Yeah, we use ADO, and like the way that I think it's supposed to work on Teams is you have an actual DevOps person. So the tester gets the tickets, and then they verify that whatever issue they're saying is happening in the field is actually reproducible, it's happening. Then either they, or if you have a dedicated DevOps person, creates the work item and then assigns it to the project manager. The project manager assigns it to the appropriate dev that should work that item, or do whatever else needed. Dev creates a branch using whatever naming schema you want, fixes the issue, implements the feature, resolves the user story, whatever it happens to be. Then their commit should be the comment that updates the DevOps item. So you associate it with that DevOps item or GitHub item or whatever. Check it in, create the PR, someone else reviews it, merges to master. So there's very little actual DevOps work on the developers side of things.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
That'd be
that's a nice flow. What you just described as a very nice flow.
That's why you want to add a to-do in code, then have a reviewer with X frequency to either fix your to-dos or put them in Jira DevOps issues, whiteboard, whatever, wherever. We'll always be together. This is how to do it.
Right. And that was like the most frustrating thing where I work at with some of the older code that I look at is you'll just scroll down to the page and on line 1425, it just get a value and +5 with no code comments. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how it came there. And we're adding 5 to the thing. And it's really, and what's most infuriating, the thing is invariably called something like QSV yarn or
just something that you can't parse with your brain.
What does the Q stand for? We don't really remember. Nobody's really wrote that down. Q means something. We're not sure, but it's got yarn in it, so it's manufacturing, I guess. And that's what I get out of. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
It's awesome.
Or the shorthand ones too. They'll just have like the letter D, and then you have to scroll 5 methods up to work out what on earth D was at one point in the code. And they just kept going with it.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that code commenting stuff. Is like, man, that way, if someone just put a little code comment, adding 5 because of blah 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 machine is broken a little bit in our code and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and that's where, again, so like it could be a code smell having too many comments that explain things that should be self-evident. But one approach to resolving that kind of situation is having method names and variable names that are meaningful, and you can deduce what the code is doing by reading it.
I remember when you were going to the part of the stage where you were thinking about leaving, you went through a lot of your projects and added all those code comments in on purpose.
Oh, yes.
So that's what we're looking at. But you literally sat down and said, how can I help the next developer, aka myself, in 3 years?
Apparently.
Apparently. Potentially.
Oh, yeah, I meant potentially. Hypothetically.
Yeah. Hypothetically.
Thank you.
So that's why the code smell is like you almost are like you. I guess the other thing is like I saw a thing that does auto documentation, right? You're familiar with like, right? Which is what we saw a little bit of in the code source generator. The source generator did auto documentation, and there's like you say, I forget the name of you call it.
Sandcastle.
That's another. Yes, that's one of them. There's many.
I used that a long time ago because I really needed comments. And now you just, if you have GitHub Copilot, if you have IntelliCode, you just write 3 wax or /doc.
What am I supposed to do? What is this?
No, you haven't seen this.
I haven't.
Do you have Copilot?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
Copilot.
So you just use Copilot chat.
I have Copilot in VS Code. Does that make a difference?
Yeah. I don't think it makes a difference, but you just type /doc and it writes doc for the file that you're in.
All right, BLB.
I'm going to go document my code real quick. And then, of course, because you're a good developer, you accept it, but you read through it and you make sure that it gave the correct information for what it is.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty nice. But does that and I see like it's almost like miniature XML in there, summary and so on. Is there a go-to tool that I'm assuming you use this? Is there a go-to tool that you would use to automatically document this stuff? So if you like create like a PDF manual.
It's called Generate XML Docs on Build. If you right-click and go to Properties. What is going on, phone?
Your phone.
Oh man, I gotta tell you about that in a second. you check the box that says something about generate documentation on build. I only know how to do it through the CS proj file, where you actually just type generate documentation on build true.
We'll do it how usual. Other way we'll do it because I never click.
Yeah.
You can search at the top if you don't know where it is.
Yeah, true. I forgot. I want to give a shout out to Soft Doesn't Software. Amazing streams for him as well.
Indeed.
They are awesome. He's working on Office add-ins using Blazor. Did I actually do a / shout out yet? Soft as in software. Thank you so much for the resub. Really, really appreciated. Check out his stream. He's been streaming a lot more lately, and they've been great. He's doing some really cool JS interop stuff in Excel using Blazor.
I think not just Excel. I think he has also a bunch of other stuff
Office.
too. But
yeah,
very cool stuff. I have played with that. It's very, very, very cool.
So this will output an XML file, and then you could put an XLST on top of it to style it so that it looks better. But by itself, you'd be able to see all of your classes and all of your methods and just everything that you wrote XML docs on.
Interesting.
So that looks like, what does the file actually look like? That would be bin, I think. Debug. Let's go see if we can find our .xml file. Edge. What? Yeah. Oh my goodness, I can't. Yeah, I don't have very many. I don't have very many docs. But yeah, if you wrote your, this doesn't even look right, actually.
Well, would it be? It would be. I imagine XML per CS proj.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, it would be. But I don't know. I don't really remember. It's been a while since I've used it, but it does give you, I just remember seeing an API style web page where you can click on class names. It'll take you to the definition of it and then show you all the exposed properties and the descriptions of them, and then example usages if you have examples.
The only thing that sounds even remotely like that, like API style, is the swashbuckle OpenAI stuff.
Right. Yeah. But that one, so when I say API style, I mean you go to Microsoft Docs. Learn.Microsoft Docs, and you look up a specific class, and it tells you, here's the description of that class, here are the exposed methods and properties, here's what all of them mean, here's example usages.
Yeah, that'll be beautiful.
String builder. Let's go to that. That's an actual blog here. So not quite this detailed. This is still a blog. Where's your flippin' API? This. It doesn't look like this, but it has the same information. Here's a namespace that it's in. Here's the assembly. Not that, just the class name. Properties, methods.
Man, I thought I was going to learn some ML stuff today, but apparently I'm going to be doing this.
You want to learn ML stuff? Okay, download Ooba Booga, or clone to your desktop, Ooba Booga, TextGen Web UI. Create a Conda environment. Do the Python-R requirements.txt.
I don't know. I lost the way. I meant like
Scat Ooga Booga.
Ooga Booga texture, and it's simple to use. What is this?
Text gen. Oh wait, that's you here. No, that's not you.
I'm on that. I'm on that
Uh,
Reddit.
Here. This is what it looks like when it's installed and running. You find a model on Hugging Face, copy paste the name of it here, download it. It becomes in your list of models. Choose the model you want to use. Right now I'm using Bloke, Open Orca, GPTQ, this one. So this one should already be loaded. I'm not going to try loading it now. And then you can interact with your local LLM.
Ah, gotcha.
And then if you expose the API using the API switch, then you can have any application that you write be able to do a message to the API. Hi, automated realms. And then it will respond. Internal server error 500.
Ah, yes.
So maybe maybe it isn't actually loaded. So let's show what it looks like when you load a model.
Well, certainly, please do. I meant more the machine learning stuff, the ML.NET stuff with like forecasts and stuff with data.
Oh, cool. I would love to do
on my
that
to-do
too.
list.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Where is OpenOrca? I'm so blind. Oh, it's because it's Mistral. The bloke just took all of these language models and put them into a format that you can easily load into your LLM software. So you can use Llama 2, you can use Silly Tavern, whatever else. Okay, and I loaded the model, so let's try that again. Takes a minute for the first response, but from then on, it's super duper fast. So there, we now have our local LLM responding to chat messages. If you were to, for example, play archery, the first thing it does is it regurgitates a message I told it to reword and customize. And then once you finish playing, Big Gamey's numbers 4520. Oh man, that gets so close so fast. So we know that we can shoot straight at the target, but I really want to write this in a way, oh my gosh, that you get extra points the longer the arrow stays in the air. Yes. And of course the sound and everything are all out of sync. But there you go. This is generated by the LLM. I fed it all of the information about the session, what the person did when they shot the arrow, and then it gave back the info. The end.
Too cool. Too cool. Yep, so much to learn, so little time.
But this one is super duper easy. This one, you essentially install whatever software it is that exposes the LLM via an API that follows the OpenAI API, and then you do send an API.
You know about
HTTP request.
Was it Kyoto?
Maybe. I mean, there are so many out there now. It just
no. So this is an extension for VS Code.
Okay.
That has basically knows about, what is it called? It's Kyoto. Man, I'm gonna have to. It's gonna suck if I give an amazing description. I can't pronounce what the hell it's called. But basically, you can point it at any open AI spec API endpoints, and it will write all the C# code for you to do interactions with that API.
TBD game.
Kyoto?
I'd say Kyoto, but yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft Kyoto.
It's actually a Microsoft product. That's cool.
Right,
they have a thing called semantic kernel where you can pretty much write this process yourself, which is
well,
cool.
no. So this is just to do with APIs. When you mentioned Open API, this is a thing that like will work with any Open API on the planet, and you can point it at it, or planet that you're accessible to. You can point it at it, and it will do all the legwork for you to integrate and do all the models and everything, so you can just like load it up and go.
Yeah, I was specifically talking about OpenAI API. So they have a standard pattern that's like chat endpoint, a completions endpoint, an instruct endpoint. This is talking about OpenAPI, which I'm pretty sure that means that there's some kind of standard way of making APIs and exposing specific endpoints.
Yeah, this is like Swashbuckle.
Cool.
If you're familiar with Swashbuckle, that is basically
absolutely.
this standard, right? So if you have any endpoints that use Swashbuckles, that is OpenAPI.
We're going to use semantic kernel in the bot remake because currently in the bot, I am manually querying those endpoints that I was telling you about. Text gen service, it's right here. So you can see V1 chat completions. So this is an endpoint.
You don't have the per project color highlighting?
I don't. Well, I mean, I kind of do. You can see it up here, I think.
No, you have it switched off.
There. That is odd though, because I do have it, on everywhere else. It must have been from a recent Visual Studio update that it turned it off.
Yeah,
that's weird.
A lot nicer.
Thank you for pointing that out. I wrote an OpenAI API plugin, says Tyron. Semantic kernel, I need to get back to. Last time their docs didn't match their API, says TBD Gamer. Yeah, it's been kind of confusing for me to really understand how to do the initial setup. I even, look, a comment for myself to use semantic kernel when we were using the chatbot. I think this is how you set it up. I don't know. But I also need to, I just need to know how to configure it, set it up, and get it working. But we will do that if we ever do any work on the bot remake. It's mostly, like, I really, really enjoy our Fridays where we're just talking about the stuff that we talk about.
And I love our vegan-friendly stream where we don't discriminate based upon ID.
Yes.
We support everyone wanting to use any ID.
Yes.
Even though they weren't required about it.
I don't worry about such things. Writer doesn't confuse me and my projects. Writer plug. Visual Studio community has everything that I could ever want as a developer.
What is it? I can't remember. TD, what is it you don't mention ever? I forget.
I barely ever mention Writer. Hardly. Marcus said, I'm using a repository that was written for Talent Voice, so I can ask them a little question and it replies into the clipboard from the selected text in my application. Whoa. So then do you manually pasta the response or what?
Interesting.
Or are you saying
what? Someone's probably made this.
Someone's
probably made this, and it's probably a product somewhere that you have to go buy now. But you know what would be just the dandiest?
What is it?
If there was a product that's listening to your microphone right now, and doing the whole transcription, and then basically it's waiting for a question to end in a question mark, and then it takes that question and sees if it can answer it. So you could literally you could be like on a phone call with somebody, and you're saying, "I wonder if it's cold out," and then it would literally go and work that out and like have it display on the screen. By the way, it's
so voice assistant name does that, and it does a really good job of determining whether the thing you are saying or speaking is directed at voice assistant. That I'm not going to say out loud. Don't want to trigger anyone's voice assistant.
Absolutely, it's very smart. But sorry, this is what you have open right now? Talon?
Oh no, this is what Marcus Voice Coder was talking about.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought I just said the keyword that was
No. I mean, you could say it all you want because,
Well, people might be on speaker. But sorry, so it's without saying, is voice assistant is what it's called, or
No. It's one of the major voice assistants. The one that typically activates itself when you're not wanting it to, which is
the one that
not
Jeff made?
Jeff Fritz?
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. I think so. Is he the Amazon guy?
Yeah.
I don't know people, man.
Cortana's been she got murdered. I'm talking about she was took out back, and they well, I won't give a description.
It's still there.
She's not around. No, she's been mass murdered. They're rebranding it of AI now.
Yeah, it's all Copilot.
Copilot E, whatever. But no,
yes.
But I guess that's
yes.
that's slightly dissimilar to the product that I'm thinking of.
Yes.
But not.
Mine just happens to be my TV. My remote is always listening, and then it picks up things, and it thinks that I'm talking to it. But it does a really good job of dismissing itself without responding when I'm not actually talking to it.
But yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, like, imagine if you're like on a phone call, and your like phone is listening in for a question.
Oh yeah.
And then like, if you did ask a question, like you'd have like a screen area, but you could like tap yes, get an answer for that, and it would send it over to AI and respond back as you're like in conference or whatever.
That does sound cool. But again, like the thing that I want to see in the future, since we're now starting to talk about future in tech, which is one of my favorite topics to dream about, is moving away from devices. Like there's got to be some way that isn't implants that allows us to interact with our digital environments. That is not a flat screen. It's not a brain chip. Could be a wearable. I don't mind wearables.
I mean, what's wrong with like brain chips and that kind of stuff?
Nothing. Not everyone wants it though. So accessibility.
Yeah.
Or not.
I mean,
not accessibility as in handicaps, but people having it be available to a wide audience.
I was about to say, ironically, as you subconsciously mentioned, that handicapped is the target audience for a lot of the stuff that's already out there, right?
True.
There are
Yes.
brain chips that you can like control your robotic fingers with and so on.
Right.
So we have the tech. It's just, do we want to connect that tech up to some more sort of more modern-esque thing? But I'm
Marcus,
for
that. I just recently watched a video on the Neuralink stuff where they talked about the older tech that's pretty much the same as, not the same as, but the same concept as Neuralink, and how a lot of those companies, this one pacemaker company especially, went out of business, and the person that had that device couldn't get updates, couldn't get whatever service was needed on that device, and they were stuck with it essentially.
That happened. It was John. Well, I don't know if we name names, but John Deere, the American farm equipment manufacturer, had a similar thing where their like manuals on how to repair things were like heavily controlled, and you couldn't get a copy of it unless you like signed a treaty or trying to sign a contract that says you will always use their professional repair service, and you will never share this information with anybody. It's like really like, what's the word, controlling. But it's just a bad business bad business practices. But generally that stuff gets stomped out, or if not, the government steps in and makes them stamp it out. So
yay, Juan Van is here. Watch Me Lurkin says borrows Iron Man's helmet. So I brought this because I thought we were going to get on a topic like this. This is the book that I was looking for a while ago, or one of them, I guess. This is Some Junko Ideas. This one is from 2010, all of the ideas that I had for making an AI assistant, and it's in pretty big detail regarding how I would implement it if I had the know-how, how I would build up its language module, how I would have it do what I now know is called inferencing, and it's all here.
Wow.
That's a cover.
That's intense right there.
I have like 3 versions of it. I have also the wearables that you could use with it. Glasses, yeah. I mean, it's really hard to get away from putting something in front of your eyes in order to interact with digital stuff, digital assets, but there's got to be something akin to holograms that we could achieve with our technology. Like, in Star Trek, you have the holodeck. where it looks like these things are in front of you without needing to wear anything on your face.
Yep.
It's
No,
gotta be
I
possible.
imagine I imagine that's very possible. It's more of a like all things in economics. It's more of like at what cost. I imagine we've
Yeah.
had the technology for some time. Like someone was mentioning, the actual LLM stuff we've been able to do for a very long period of time. It's just it wasn't until OpenAI actually just decided to make it public that it actually became a big thing. Only once you had like sort of the power and weight of the what is the world's economies in the market in the discussion, only then did people like start pouring massive amounts of resources into it. But prior to that, we had the technology, we just didn't make it public. That's
Right.
really it.
Right.
When I say we, I mean they, the tech people.
The technology was not shared, to say it
Right.
in a passive way.
Well, not
But
to
I
say that it
agree.
wasn't shared. Nobody put it together. Like nobody
Oh,
actually
true.
like got all the building blocks and made
Yeah,
it
yeah.
feasible for someone with a Google account to ask AI questions. Like it is somewhat crazy to me. Like right now, you could be in North Korea, wander across the border, not wander, but you could be somewhere. You could be somewhere that has no internet connection in the middle of I don't know Baghdad or whatever. I don't know. Someplace, and then simply go down to the store, buy a phone, and then you have immediate free access to the most advanced language models that our species have, the most advanced technology in this regard that we've ever produced for free. It is something quite wild to think about. Um, I was reading about like how the electrical grid in Great Britain was put together, like section by section, bit by bit, and people forget that actually didn't complete that. Like that story didn't actually. That was within the last 100 years that everyone in Britain had access to electricity, and now you know what I mean. That was like within 100 years. It's within like not that long ago. Really, not that long ago.
Yeah, yeah. It truly wasn't.
It really wasn't. People always think, well, in history, blah blah blah, and they only like go back like 70 years in history. I'm like, I got news for you. History goes a lot further back than 70 years.
Does it though?
It does. It really does.
Oh, you're right. Maybe 70 years before I was born, but that's about it.
Well, that's what people have like this. I don't know. Views of things. And it's like, well, does that track with the rest of the story? And it's like, no, because I only my vision of
late
history only like
1900s.
goes back to like 1950s, and that's it. Well, that I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, so Juan, as I mentioned, so Juan is asking, how do you price your contracts? And if I were to be pricing contracts, hypothetically, I would use my target salary, what I would get on a yearly basis from an employer, factor in benefits, come up with a number, turn that into an hourly number, and then buffer it with a margin.
Yeah. My policy is to double it and give it to the next person. Isn't that what you're supposed to do when anyone else asks you? Double it.
I don't know. I mean, that's always been the thing that you've said. So I would say yes. That is what you're supposed to do.
That's like when someone goes out into the street and says you could have $5 right now, or you could double it and give it to the next person. And the person says double it, give it to the next person, and then like the guy goes up to like $1 million and it's like calls his like manager like, so we got a budget of $125. What's the damage? Like $1,045,262.
Yeah. The thing that I forgot to mention on top of that is that if you are contracting, you're most likely paying your own taxes out of the money that you make. So you're calculating 100%. It based off of your gross. And so if you're asking for something that seems like a lot, let's say $150 an hour seems like a lot, when you typically at your job only make $60 some an hour or $80 some an hour, it's just about right. It's your time. It is you're the one paying taxes on whatever they give to you. You have business expenses, and yeah.
Yep.
So those are the considerations. Not that I know about this at all. These are things that I've been told by other people, like Nerd Herder.
Yep. And that's I've done a fair amount of that kind of work in IT, not in software development, I should say. Well, most of the software development I've done. Most of the software development stuff I've done is W2, but I've done contract work outside of that. And I say most of it, people just don't like. There's a ton of stuff that goes into operating, running, maintaining a business, a lot, and I know that because I'm just doing my business taxes for a couple of those businesses now. And so yeah, you'd be surprised. Like, you think, well, I make X an hour as a W-2 employee. If you go actually into the business, and you don't really have a chance to see this and see all the other costs your employer has to pay in order to keep you
On your
around and do
behalf.
things on your behalf, all the additional taxes, like basically like everything, like when you look at payroll taxes, it's actually an additional like payroll tax that the company doesn't tell you about. They have to pay just to keep you, like, just legally have you, retain you as an employee.
Yeah.
They have to pay in so many accounts. And so like and I want to hazard a guess, it's something like it's something along the, I want to hazard a guess, say for every $100,000 that the employer pays out, they're paying out about $60,000 to $70,000 in benefits that aren't cash money in your check, in form of taxes that they pay. So
what's the term for sole proprietorship?
Yes, sole proprietorship.
Well, what's the other one? Single
sole proprietorship?
Yeah, there's another one. There's a single member.
Like C Corp, they call it. Or it's a corporation, but it's owned by an individual.
Yeah. Or no, and even then, like before that, so before you go S Corp or C Corp, there's one where you're just sole proprietor, but it's called a single member LLC. Yeah, thank you. Yep. Single member LLC, where it's just pass through. So even though you are making money through the company and you have to pay taxes on that as company taxes, it still factors in as you're paying it as an individual. You are paying it off of your own stuff. So the thing that S Corps and C Corps get are tax breaks when it comes to if you make a lot more. It also has the separation of money between your personal finances and your company's finances, all of those things. Yep. So that's why I'm saying it depends on how much you personally make, because it might take you into a higher tax bracket if you're filing as a single member LLC or a pass-through entity versus you paying separate with your S Corp or C Corp from your personal. Yeah. And in most cases, it is less.
Well, I was going to say, once you get to that point, you're going to hire a CPA, and that CPA is going to tell you all about this.
Yeah.
But first, you got to get that $200,000 contract through the door before you hire a CPA.
Because like $500 an hour just to talk
sweet.
with him.
His wife he's already got his first employee. Hopefully she just likes getting paid nothing, because that's free labor is always good for the business. If we're being fiscally responsible.
And my wife, because waifu is a term of endearment, I guess, to some people. But anyway, my wife is helping a ton with managing finances and taking care of that stuff. It's so good. So nice. So I'm with you on one. She's not a CPA, but still super helpful. All right, so all the meetings. I had that earlier today, Tyron. I was trying to pay more attention to TBD Gamer's stream. He's such a good streamer, and I love watching his content. Not Mrs. Lion, no. That's no. Not a name we're gonna get started. No lion involved. Person lion. Gosh, what was I saying? Oh, I was trying to watch TBD Gamer's stream and pay more attention to it, and then I got an unexpected call from our technical what is he? Is he a product owner or project owner? Product manager. Sugar Momo Lion. Thank you, Naval. I guess, is it like interspecies if she's not a lion? Because she's not a lion. That's the thing. She's a water creature. He's a project and he needs to be managed. True. He's the product manager, but the one that has the technical oversight. So we have 3 total stakeholders on the client side: the product owner, the technical, whatever his thing is called, and then the one that does all the money stuff. The one that secures all the funding for the project itself. So I guess product owner as well. Still, CFO, sure. I mean, he's not necessarily an officer. He's still a product owner, stakeholder, but he's the one that negotiates being able to keep our project funded. So, whatever. Anyway, point is, where was I going with this? Oh, he called me. The technical one called me, which I wasn't expecting. And we had a discussion about the thing that I keep complaining about on stream, which is the integrating the other team's product into ours, and they have that weird SignalR backend that's trying to be an API server that is just not quite doing. It's not very easy to understand how it's supposed to work. That's what I'm trying to say. Good grief. Good gravy. So I'm done with that. Anyway, moving on. And it's because of Tyrant's meetings. Were there any pieces of chat that we did not respond to earlier? I know Napalm was talking about people finishing his unit tests and being serious and giving Juan Von access to the private repo. Oh, man. Oh, my really quick story. And question, I guess, solicitation. Has anyone else been having issues with their Messenger Plus apps, any Android users, with their Messenger Plus app not refreshing your text messages unless you open the app? I'm not super unhappy about that.
Question on that.
Yeah.
When you say Messenger Plus, I use messages for the web. Is that what you're referring to? Or is that something else?
This one is actually called Messages Plus.
Okay. I use like the stock
Message Plus.
Android one.
Yeah, this is One UI from Samsung. So.
Oh, you got the Samsung specific one.
Yeah.
I thought the Samsung specific one was getting not decommissioned. They weren't developing it anymore.
Well, I don't know if the message app is Samsung specific, but the UI is One UI or whatever it's called. Whatever theirs is.
I mean, if it's the same UI as the custom Samsung stuff, I'm gonna go with yes, it is.
I meant the OS.
Oh, okay.
OS UI, not the apps UI.
Okay.
It's just weird because like my wife apologized to me for all of the messages that were going back and forth between her and her family, because there was just a stretch of time where it was just a big conversation that was going on, and I was like, what conversation? She's like, aren't you on the list? And I look at my phone and I'm like, no. So then I open the Messenger app and I got 20 text messages coming.
So that's the VZ messages?
No.
.com thing?
Maybe. I don't know, man. It is a Verizon app. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's just called Message Plus.
Here's what I encourage you. I think it's this guy. At least this is called Messenger Plus. Yeah,
yeah, this is the icon for it, definitely. So it's a Verizon thing. Then yes.
Yeah. So I would probably say if you are having issues, I would just install the generic Android. This is what I would do.
I have the generic one.
And just use that because that also has the same ability to sync with everything and do everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Okay, so I just put Message Plus into Google. And it came up with, I'm going to link it in the Twitch chat once I find the tab. This guy, does that look like the same UI that you are used to?
Yep, that's the app.
That's it, yeah. So I mean, all of those features that it's saying, that they are in just the default Android one.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I have used that one for a long time, but then I switched over to this one and it's worked just fine until I have no idea when. But it was hilarious getting that flood of messages.
I mean, because it used to be about 3-4, not even that long ago, perhaps. Every single phone manufacturer had its own SMS app for some reason.
Oh yeah,
Samsung had its own one.
Yeah,
T-Mobile had its own thing, and every problem could be just resolved. Just install the default one, and then your UI is the same between all of them. If you get a new phone, it's all the same anyway.
And then he gets all quiet.
Sorry, I got people texting me.
No, no
Ironically,
worries.
I
That's
opened up my
funny.
Destiny app and people are texting me. I'm like, oh, I should reply to this.
Napalm and TBD Gamer are having some really good banter. I was just having fun with that.
Good.
TBD Gamer is done. He did a great job. Oh, I thought it was Juanvan that said, I'll do it, but it must have been TBD Gamer. Oh, it was TBD Gamer. I'm terrible at this. Okay, so TBD Gamer already did all of Napalm's unit testing stuff. Just like that. Amazing job. More reasons to go check out TBD Gamer's stream. Oh, I didn't actually do a proper shout out for Marcus Voice Coder. Are you like planning on streaming more consistently, Marcus Voice Coder? He was playing a game today, but it was really cool.
That was C# Fritz.
Yeah, C# Fritz was playing Overwatch 2 today. So I don't typically watch anyone when they are playing a game when they stream, right. Even if there's someone that I typically watch. So I wasn't on his, but I had never seen Marcus's stream, and I saw that he was streaming, and I was like, I gotta see this. He was playing Sudden Strike 4 with his voice.
It's a pretty good day for streaming in general. Like, a lot of really good streamers have been on today.
Yeah, I agree. You there. And then TBD Gamer rated someone named YK Dojo who was working on AI stuff as well, which was cool. So I hung out there for a bit. I don't like streams that require you to be a follower to chat, but I get it. I understand why.
Well, you know, there's a get out of jail. There's a way around that. If you just put one bit on your message, it bypasses that requirement. So if you join in and they're like, I want to know just a little bit more before I hit the follow button, you can always just put a teeny 1 cent in there, and that 1 cent allows you to bypass the rule on require a follow.
Neato. I mean, I didn't say anything on his stream at all. I was just
one day I will also stream.
Again. Let's do a shout out for. Do you have clips? I don't know if we've ever done a DFlux clip.
I have one clip.
On your main channel, right? DFlux streams?
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
It's terrible.
This is from a million years ago.
Productive. Oh, there's another phone call coming in.
Max, no, you never told me. You never told me you were so much of a comedian.
Max isn't Max anymore. You can't hear yourself. I'm sorry. Max is now only. I mean, there is another person that comes into chat called Violet Dragon that is not Max. So you know. If you ever see him on your streams. Another call? Oh, you just muted yourself so that you wouldn't talk over yourself. What's the question mark for, Marcus? Was I confusing? Will you be streaming again? Ever? Or more often? Or both? That's what I want to know. Not sure. Because I will hang out with you if you do. Honestly, I would probably have changed raid target. Yeah. Again, it's probably like you feel about it probably the same way that I do. It's so weird watching someone stream that has a lot of the same behind the scenes mental processes. At least it just seems like it with the things that you say and decide on. It's just so weird seeing that, but probably another reason I really enjoy your stream. It's like mirroring or something. And I know you said that you haven't gotten like typed or anything, but I'd still wager you're a 9TJ. Not that that means anything or matters to anything, but just interesting. Creating something. I did a piece of work on the Blazor bot today. While we're waiting for anything, let's go over the project structure of the Blazor bot remake. So I have a brand new Blazor web app template, .NET 8. I'm planning on having a client-side services thing for the UI and then a server-side services thing, which is probably just the Blazor bot, but this is also things like the text gen stuff and Discord bot and whatever else. I think we're going to have a Signal R Hub project that is on its own, and this will handle all of our Blazor bot Signal R messaging. And the reason we would use Signal R in this case is because we're doing stuff like echoing chat. And I don't want to have to pull a server and say, hey, is there a new chat message? Hey, give me the chat list. Hey, give me the chat list. Instead, once we receive a new message, we'll process it and then display chat, whatever we do with it. Shared library, it's going to have all of our POCOs, it's going to have all of our abstractions, our interfaces for stuff, state management stuff, and then a UI project that's going to be Blazor. And you can do UI in whatever type of project you want. Maui, WPF. What's the other one, DFlux?
Maui, WPF, WinForms, WinUI,
WinForms,
WinReunion.
Thank you. Yes.
Yep. WinUI 3 is technically Maui.
Right. Thank you. So that's our structure. And it's typically how I structure just about any project with the server-side implementation of all of our shared interfaces. So it doesn't matter where you run the app, you call the same this service dot whatever method, and it'll either handle it on the client side with a HTTP request or whatever, or the server side with a direct call to server resources. The end. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Woohoo. So that's one. So, what are you doing for the rest of your day, DFlux?
Well, so Friday I try after your stream. Usually I tune in, and sometimes I'm busy working on something. But
And then you
I
show
try
up
to
at like
spend
12:32 when I'm already late ending.
Yeah, well, exactly. Once I free up from the stream, I always try and go and learn one thing. And so often I sometimes come here with like I have there's things I want to learn, but maybe there's something more better that I could, something a little bit more. I don't know, I see what other people are doing, and so it's always a good conversation to be part of or listen to get idea of what's going on in tech or what's happening, because maybe I'll change my mind as a result. So initially I had come today and I wanted to get more hands-on with the ML stuff, but I'm starting to lean towards maybe I should go and re-grab the semantic kernel stuff and play with a little bit of AI and maybe follow along with your
or
on-prem
anything. It doesn't have
AI,
to just be text gen.
items, like you say, you can install it locally.
Vaughn says,
so
try to work on this product to add the new client. Oh, yeah, cool. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but one thing I still haven't fully wrapped around my head, and maybe this is a good opportunity. Wouldn't it be cool if, and again, I always say this thing. I
love this phrase.
It's
the
probably
best phrase
out there
ever.
somewhere. If there was
DFlux knows how to move my heart. He just says those magic words, and I'm like salivating. Okay, go ahead.
Well,
wouldn't it be cool if?
It wouldn't be cool if you already know exactly what I'm suggesting, but wouldn't it be cool if there was a very simple .razor component that you could slap anywhere in your Blazor project, and you knew what your anywhere in your new .NET 8 Blazor app, right? It could be either server, WebAssembly, or there's like 5 different variations of what it could be, or if it's like client-side static
Maybe
rendering,
80,
or
yeah.
server-side, or Signal R. So if you just start in that, and it would just like read out what mode you're in at the time,
right,
when it renders the page. Because right now I think I'm correctly loading up my WASM, loading into WASM on my little side project here. But there's no real way for me to know it loads .wasm stuff, so I know it's doing WASM things, but I don't know
Mhm.
if my component is actually in WASM, or if it's just
Right.
loading in the background, or
You
where the
might be able
thing
to tell
is
that through
exactly.
dev console though. Like you could check to
Yeah,
see if
yeah,
there's WASM stuff or WebSocket stuff happening or WASM stuff
yeah.
happening.
That there is WASM stuff happening because
We don't
it
need to
says
print
like the
internet.
way I can tell is on the console. It will say that you have 40 megabytes or whatever it is, uncompressed WASM loaded in debug mode or whatever.
Hold on, I need to save these results.
Okay.
Pick my printer. Anyway, Tyrone just played. We don't need to print the internet. WASM, all the things. But yeah, I see what you're saying though. It would be really cool in app to have that.
So I can just have a little bar along the bottom, and
Yeah.
like if there's a problem, I can say, because one of the things that I've done is I've gone ahead. Well, not the one thing I've done. One of the things I've always had is the ability to switch from the server side to the WebAssembly side. But at one point I went over to server and I started kept going, and so I have a lot of now API endpoints that aren't when you implement the interface that aren't actually API endpoints that have been set up. And so when I move over to the WASM side, I'm expecting to see some throw exceptions from like unimplemented exceptions. They never seem to fire. But so I don't know. I don't know. So that's one of the areas I've yet to get my head fully around is that new .8 stuff still, and I'm still months and months and months away from it being released, and I still don't get it. And so that's a real shame because I haven't had time to spend on it.
Me
So I've been
either.
doing
And like this is the
Angular
first
stuff.
of actual .NET stuff that I've been doing, which .NET 8 stuff that I've been doing, which is starting the Blazor bot. I haven't even I guess in one stream we went through the new .NET 8 WASM with identity template so that we could figure out how that works, and we played around a little bit with trying to get the role claims into the app using that, because as soon as I can do that, I can definitely move all of the RMA, if I was working on them, the RMA apps over to .NET 8.
Yeah, that's something that's also you just mentioning it. I'm like, I have authentication on the server side, but I don't think I've done anything that special on the client side for ensuring that the person is authenticated. So I don't even know about that. I haven't even got to that stage, I guess.
Yeah,
And so this
you
is
could essentially do it yourself, Marcus is saying, if you selected the mode in the component or its parent. But what if you have the mode set to auto, Marcus? That's what he's saying. He wants to
right.
know
That
what
yeah.
is this component automatically using.
So basically, what I'm doing is right now I globally set to server because I get scared, and I'm like, no, I should learn this. And I set it back to auto and try and learn how to do it properly. And I can never actually get anything to work. So then I just run back to being server.
Yeah.
TBD says
And that's
he
kind of
loves
what I did.
Blazor, and he specifically likes it when we talk about Blazor stuff because he makes it feel so proud of the fact that he only does Blazor now and he doesn't do anything in
So
Angular.
I repeated a joke on his stream that I said on Irish John's stream, but I've been doing a lot of dirty console stuff, like typing in ngserve, for example, which is a way to launch an Angular application.
Yep.
Makes
Or
me
get
feel so
depressed.
dirty. Ugh.
Yeah.
But no, I'm joking about that. And I have to clarify this every time because I'm not ragging on JavaScript frameworks. They can be really robust, really easy to set up and use. For outsiders, they're kind of hard, and then for people that strongly prefer strongly typed languages like me, if you're not using TypeScript, and even if you are, if you're only using any for every single thing, not that the people that wrote this app are doing that for the type, then it's just hard for me to grasp and want to look at because it just feels so dirty. Where's my type safety? Where's my safety net? Marcus said the Visual Studio extension Code Rush had a massive update this week. You can now press a control button and dictate or write code or run commands that you can set up yourself. This is a great tool for people who have trouble typing or a disability. It is also a great tool for people who want to code faster. Absolutely true. And it's free. So shout out to Code Rush. I think his stream name is Code Rushed BD. So if you are not following Code Rushed, who developed, I believe, he is the one that developed Code Rush, right? Terrible at this. The Code Rush extension. Definitely check him out. His stream has so many interactions that, oh my goodness. I can't really watch his streams. They're too wild for me. Too much. Oh, way too much stimulus.
TBD says we need to do a dual screen. We need to do a stream one day where we do a dual screen, and it will be titled DFlux proves to TBD that Blazor isn't inferior to or the framework to.
Oh jeez.
That's easy.
And thank you for
I do
confirming.
that here. I can prove it right now. It's what I use. That's why it's a superior one. All right, moving on. And so,
yeah, moving on. We have stand up coming up because I'm getting close to the end of the stream.
SpaghettiOs.
Uh-oh.
But wouldn't it be cool? So you don't actually have a. We don't have a. Other than go look in F12 and try and find things. There's no real way to know if a component
I don't
that you're
know. I
loading
haven't
in.
researched it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like that should already be a thing where you can
right.
determine what the current render mode is.
Don't you think they should like put that out the gate, like in the stock project, like along the bottom or somewhere?
Like it would be similar to something like the cascading authentication state, where maybe you can access it from a static global object that gets set by Blazor.
The docs say I should like inherit, or I should do some cascading and go look at the HTTP context. And somewhere in the HTTP context is like to say, well, if it's WebAssembly, it can't do this and it can do that only on WebAssembly, and that's how you tell. And it's like, well, that seems really messy.
I don't know what you mean by you have to specify it, Marcus, because I thought the point of this was you could write your components in a render mode agnostic way. And then maybe in order to fully cover all of your bases, you would need some kind of switch that says, if we're running in this component with interactive server, then do this, because not all applications are going to support every render mode.
Right, and so like the way where I've arrived is I used to have an app, right, that used to run in a static web app really, really cheaply. And then I had a business use case for this app. And so now I pay for a monthly server. I don't pay it, I get credits for it. So it's still free. But now I have it on a technically credit basis where I get it running on server. So all I do is have an interface. And when I'm on the WebAssembly side, it implements that interface, and it goes and like hits the HTTP endpoint that hits an API, returns the data. On the server version, I implement that exact same interface, and that interface then just calls the data directly because we're on the server mode. And so any of my components could be either loaded in WebAssembly or in server.
Right.
And so that's what I'm hoping the auto mode can do, is you can like load the page and it does the whole static render thing, and then does the whole signal thing. So that's really quick and beautiful and wonderful. And then as the user, or as in this case the contractor, would go further into the app, at some point it would switch over to being WebAssembly as opposed to being load on my window. Well,
it would be on the next load, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know when I say the next load, or like my understanding is like you could like on the next like page, like if you clicked a button that like did a new route. So if you went from like, you know, / front page to / backend, on the / backend, because it's a new route or whatever, something like this. I'm thinking that in auto mode you could switch to WebAssembly, but it's not entirely obvious how exactly that is.
Yeah, so
going along.
My understanding of how it works if you're in auto mode is when you first load, if the WASM runtime is not cached or downloaded or anything, it will run server interactive. Otherwise, if it finds the WASM on load, on app load, then it'll switch to using it'll just start using WASM. So it's not while you're running that instance at the app, you'd have to refresh.
Yeah, so but even that would work too. I just haven't got it. That's fine too if that's what it is. But I just haven't gotten that to jive. I can't get out of the mode of I can't get out of the server mode.
Mm-hmm. And like what I would think we would do at that point is like in this in program.cs, that's where you're telling it whether to use the client implementation of your service or your server implementation.
Right.
So this is where you would put in the rule that says when I am starting up, find out what my render mode is.
Well,
if it
don't
is
you have? I mean, do I have this wrong? But the WebAssembly has its own program.cs.
Yes, it does. It does.
Right. So that's
Oh,
where I
yeah.
would specify. I wouldn't make a rule on the server side one. The default one would just load the server side, and then the client side one. So the only way I can think
That
of
would be interesting though, because you're kind of setting this two implementations for the same service though. That's the thing.
right. Well, I don't know exactly, but that's how I said it. So inside there, I have the exact same interface being implemented with the now the client side version being instantiated. And so when I inject it, I assume if it's once it's injected and it runs on the WASM side, it gets it from the program.cs that's the WASM one and so on. But
I guess that's not a service that has a client and server implementation.
But yeah, so it just seems crazy to me that there isn't something out the box that could just simply display what mode you're running in. And the other side, what Marcus Voice was saying there, is theoretically, if you can set those render modes on like per component, which you theoretically can, although the docs say not to do that, couldn't you just make a Boolean switch and simply just switch to client side? If that's the case, and then the next page load, like on the you click a button that says switch to client side, it then does like an F5 refresh, and then sets all the components to be loaded on the client side or something like that. Shouldn't that be possible? But again, it's like none of that stuff goes out of the box, and the docs on it are pretty weird.
We'd have
So
to
I don't know.
do lots and lots of research to try to decipher if it's even
Right.
possible. Probably even
Right, and
look at the code itself.
But I'm thinking that should be like available out of the box. You know, so
Yeah.
there should be lots of.
I would
resources.
agree. I mean, like it would make sense to have a way to just see what render mode am I in. Can I output this to my
But the only
page
the only
somewhere?
reliable way that at least in my mind that I can come across is if you do a console write line and you're running in the server mode, it goes to the obviously the console that's running, right? If you do it on the client side, it goes to the console that's in the browser. So that's really the only way like I can say
Yeah.
this is running, but I can never get it to console write line into the browser. It only ever goes to the server. So
But
I don't know.
that also is dependent on you either doing .NET Watch in the console or full debug F5. Because if you're just doing Control F5, which is launch without debug, and you're not using and you're using IIS, I guess, instead of Kestrel, then you won't have a console really that you'll be able to watch when it's running in server mode, which confused me so bad when I was first doing it.
Oh, I guess I'm always using a Kestrel in some
Kestrel.
way.
So you always
So-
have a console that you
So I
can
have a
see.
look at. Yeah.
So anyway, we are out of time. That is time. So do your stand up. What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? Any blockers?
So currently I am going to probably go and still go learn ML.NET after the stream.
Cool.
Just to knock that off my list of things, so I know a little bit better. The blockers are that you have to. Well, I'm trying to do it without using the damnedest ML.NET UI stuff because I don't like it. And I want to be able to just basically get a list, and then like a list of something, and then use that with ML.NET. So doing it just encoded in VS Code as opposed to going through the whole UI thing in Visual Studio is the way to go. But learning about how to do that, and I found a repo on it yesterday. So I'm blabbering. So what's the questions I'm supposed to be answering?
It's what did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? And what are your blockers?
Yes.
Do you need to hang out with anyone to work on something?
Yesterday I slammed my desk so much I disconnected USBs. Yes. Today it was slightly better. I didn't actually go into it, but I'm very, very unhappy with what some of my colleagues have been up to. But fortunately, they didn't make it to the stand-up, so I think I'm safe. But there's no blockers other than me, myself, and I. 3 of them are gonna block me from learning because I'm my own worst enemy. Maybe some alcohol is gonna be in the way as well, but I should be good, and I'm gonna learn some stuff. And that's the plan for today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and hanging out. It was really good talking with you today.
Absolutely.
So
likewise. I shall bid you. And one day I will stream, perhaps in 2028, maybe. We're looking at it. But
You
I
did
shall,
stream
I
at
shall
least once this year, so met your quota.
so far. Yep, yeah. All right, I shall all bid you farewell. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for doing these streams. It does brighten my week, and I always learn something
Awesome.
new every time I'm here. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Cool. Enjoy.
All right. Ta-ra, ta-ra.
And my stand-up is that I did more of this interop stuff with the other team's code, and I'm still not quite understanding how to get the device information that is showing in their app, but I will find out. I'm continuing to communicate with them and working on that. Today, I am going to respond to those messages that I just got while we were streaming and figure out what I'm missing, try to get that to work, and have a working demo by Monday. Yay. My blockers are that the messages I'm sending are formatted the same way that theirs are, but not getting the same thing back. So I need them to give me the information on what I'm doing wrong with my messaging, which I think they have. So I'll be good to go. That's it for the stream today. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for participating in Community Day. Feel free to join us again. Just a note that this weekend in the US is daylight savings, so we'll be setting our clocks an hour ahead, which means that the stream will seem like it's starting an hour earlier than it typically does. So I'll need to make sure to update this message immediately after the stream. Will be UTC -6. Yeah. Is that how it works? We're gonna seem like we're starting an hour earlier? I think so. I think that's right. Okay, I'm not good with time. We are gonna read out to a good friend of the stream, Solo Solipsist, who is working in mixed reality. I love watching his streams because I want to work in mixed reality myself. He currently has his Aliens vs. Predator headset on, which does both VR and AR with pass-through. And he's playing with some waifus. So if you don't want to see waifus, probably don't want to come with us. Otherwise, we'll be hanging out on his stream for a while. Date time is hard, is what you were going to say. Date time is hard. In the UK. I don't know what it was that you were actually trying to... In the UK. Got it. Okay, so we don't do it until the end of the month in the UK. Because OK is Oklahoma. But anyway, I'll see you guys around whenever you feel like showing up again. I'll post the VOD for this on YouTube eventually. Probably as soon as possible. I still haven't actually read the thing myself, but I trust you TVD gamers still, who already went to get lunch. But anyway, that's it. Ciao. Feel free to join our Discord. I keep remembering stuff. I'm terrible at this. Okay, music.